Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I absolutely have the wrong graphic behind me. That is for a chat that we're going to be doing about your a chakra that we discovered a couple of years ago. That's the Platino chakra that's underneath your root chakra, and it's where your Merkaba is, which is your galactic vehicle that you can see behind me. So if you give me a second, I will put up the proper um, graphic. One of the reasons why I many times am scrambling a little bit is because we are tracked by several countries. We can now back and talk about another country, which we're not going to really talk about, which is Argentina. Why am I saying that? Because I had some followers that were from Argentina, first ones there at every chat. Unbelievable. And one day when I read what's in the pineal in your head in terms of structure, that supposedly is like protecting the pineal gland, it really is shaped like a chair. And I had already identified that we had in the third eye a chair, a throne, that either you or the devil is going to be sitting in. And when I read for these people, the devil was sitting there. No, the devil was not sitting there. It was the Mickey Mouse program, the Wizard of Oz program. And I immediately understood that this person is a person that is going to my chats, trying to get close in, collecting the other people that are following me. And when I called her on it, that same night, she put a call into somebody in the Argentinian government and told them what was going on at this point. So I guess she was checking in or reporting regularly. So just letting you know that. So point of the matter is, when I'm going to do this chat, I never say at what time I'm going to do the chat, or I'll say it several hours later. And it gives me 20 seconds extra before they organize themselves. So let's go ahead and start. Today is the 15th of January, 2026. I am not a happy camper. I am very tired of being in the position that I'm in. I got a call last night, and in that call, I was threatened, and I promised that I wasn't going to do any more chats or any more maps in English. Well, I'm breaking the promise. Certainly, if somebody's holding a gun to your head, you're going to promise them anything that they want. Now, I want you to pay attention to my left eye. I just cleaned my glasses. It's not my glasses. The Vatican has decided to move those rooms in their dungeons underneath the Vatican someplace else, because I revealed that they have little hallway, and on each side there's little rooms, and they're dedicated to different powerful people across the planet. One of those rooms had me in it, and they were doing satanic rituals on it. The last time I went, they had a room for Trump, they had a room for Nancy Pelosi, probably so that she keeps supporting them. She's very Catholic. It's interesting. She appears to be a thief, but she's very Catholic. Okay, not a problem. She needs to do a mantra. Even though I'm a thief, I love and accept myself. Even though I'm a thief, I love and accept myself. And I am sure that the Vatican and the Catholic Church is very happy that she's a thief, because that means she can give bigger donations or ensure that the Catholic Church is protected from having to live the repercussions of what it is that they're doing. I have a feeling that the reason that the Pope that they chose this time, the Pope that they chose, who is flavorless, tasteless, not charismatic, doesn't look like a leader, and he's not. There's room, by the way, in the Vatican dungeon for him. So they're controlling him also. But I suspect the reason why he was controlled is that he's from the United States and he can get close to Trump. Okay, Trump, guerra avisada no mata soldado. What does that mean? If you tell people you're going to go to war, you could probably save the lives of a lot of soldiers, because maybe the people over there will rethink what it is that they're doing. Okay, I want to go into Let me talk about Erica Kirk just a minute. We did a sketch of her months ago. I've been told not to sketch her again. She's down and out for the count. She would like for Trump to help her. I would be surprised if she hasn't reached out. There's going to be no help there, lady. Your truth has been revealed, and now it needs to be revealed to you, Erica. Start doing the mantra, even though I'm ashamed, I love and accept myself. Because if you are what you are appearing to be, on all counts, including my sketch, a mind control victim, you did not sign up for this. So somebody set you up. And this is not your fault. But here's the whole point about mind control victims, of which there are hundreds of thousands. Unless we are willing to look at and process what we did while under mind control, we're not going to get out of it. And unless we're willing to look at the really bad stuff that we did under mind control, not influenced by, directed by mind control that goes against our soul, if you're not, you need to do the even though I'm ashamed mantra. So, Erica, do it. You're going down. It doesn't matter who your handlers, who your controls are. You are going down. They have made that decision. You are going down. You weren't able to keep it up. And that's a good thing, because maybe you can get out of this, but you're only going to be able to get out of it if you're willing to face your truth, which is, what the hell is going on here? Why would I have ever done any of this? It's not easy, Erica. I feel bad for you. Let's go ahead to the map of the United States because it looks really good. And then after that, we're going to go into the astrology of the United States, because last night I woke up and I realized the United States is Cancer astrologically. You can't pair a Cancer up with people that are takers. It doesn't work, because Cancer is by nature, they give, they help. The good news is this incarnation, Cancers have done this in so many incarnations when they had the astrological sign Cancer, that they have a lot of karmic credits. So the United States has a lot of karmic credits. But let me go to the map first, okay? Which I also think I did not get up. I did not get it up because it's two different places I have to put it. Okay, there we go. So this is the map of the United States, which I did 20 minutes ago. Another thing on the Cuban cartel, they have been told by their handlers or their controls, I don't know, they have been told just to kind of go with the flow. Whatever happens, it's okay, because we're going to get you out of this. In other words, they're looking like, okay, we'll do whatever you tell us to do, and we're going to be quiet, and we're going to get, and you're going to get us out of this. Good luck with that. But they are repeating it and believing it. I do have to say that they are much more gentle with me when they threaten me. They don't dare to threaten my family. They don't dare. So, but it's still, I am not well positioned in terms of being able to be happy and to do my work. So, Trump, can we hurry up on whatever it is that you're doing? Because I know you're doing, but please hurry up. It's been a long time. Okay, this is what I did minutes ago. The good news is you do have the Merkaba, but I want you to see something. See where I have an arrow that comes from the right side of the page? See, this is all slid to the left. And that is an attack. And that attack is exactly where the left side of the head, kind of like the third eye, which is what the Vatican is doing to me, they're attacking that. So this Merkaba represents different energy centers, chakras. So this is kind of like the first time that I have done this kind of a sketch and seen this. It doesn't mean it's the first time it's happened. So this triangle vector that is pointed down should be more centered. And that line, which it's pointed at with the red arrow, and I put red in it for you to be able to see it, that line is supposed to be further over. So there's a big distortion going on having to do, oh, this is so interesting. Though that vector with the pointing down is the vector of the upper three energy centers in all human beings, no exception. You can be communist, socialist, you can be a liberal, you can be a Republican, whatever. Okay? It's the three upper energy centers, which are the ones that connect to off planet. And it's shoved to the side, which means that spirituality, we are not centered. Let me go down to the rest of this. Florida looks great. The part of Texas that is Elon land is great. I don't see submarines. They, if there are any, they're not that important because if not, it would pop up for me. I told you, those of you that are listening, that that red circle is where there is rebellion. And then it was hot the last time I did this, which I think was 2 days ago. Well, they moved all the way over here and I put an arrow. I don't know what's there, but certainly if there's a military base right around there, you can kind of know that it's very unrealistic to think that regardless of how well you're doing Trump, how much you have actually anchored the stuff that you said you were going to do, even more than what you thought you'd be able to do, you still have people that for decades were being managed under a system that was very tied to the mind control system and tied to ideologies that have nothing to do with democracy. And we're talking about millions of people. So to think that you don't have people inside these organizations, whoever would have thought that, which I know was not your case, Trump, would have been a little bit unsophisticated. Anyway, Mexico looks great and Mexico is grateful. It doesn't really matter how much the president pumps her fist, and she's grateful. And the country is grateful, having to do with what's going on with the cartels. So now let's go on to a much more interesting part of this podcast, Francis Fox News from Other Dimensions. I want to go back to, I told a story here that decades ago, somebody asked me to do them a favor, a person that I loved, a friend. And I said, okay, what is it? We want you to set up like these weekly meetings with young Hispanic teenagers, females, and just kind of, figure out what to do with them just so they keep them off the streets, whatever. And I thought that was kind of weird because I was running a bridal salon. I was in business. It didn't make any sense. It didn't resonate for me, but she was a nice person. I loved her, so I said yes. It lasted maybe 3 meetings. By the third meeting, half the girls didn't even come. They were probably parading around with their boyfriends, and their mothers were thinking they were in my home being supervised. So I said to the person, listen, this is not working. And she said, oh, don't worry about it. We already accomplished our goal. I never gave her a single note. I never gave her anything. What goal did you accomplish? We got, I don't remember if it was $2 million or $3 million contract for the Girl Scouts based on my study. Well, there was no study. There were 2.5 meetings. But when I remembered this the other day, I went, that's exactly what is going on in Minnesota. By the way, this person moved to Minnesota. And there was something of a connection with autism. And this was 30 years ago. We're talking a long time ago. And I told you that there was a ceremony, and this person said to me, I'm so sorry, but I can't invite you to the ceremony. They got $2 to $3 million supposedly on what I had done, but I couldn't go to the ceremony. Talk about being dumb as a rock. Me. Julie Nixon, I believe, was the person that came to Miami and gave the $3 million, $2 million, whatever, 2.5, let's say $2.5 million to the Girl Scouts. And I could find the exact year if that would be important to anybody, because I was living in a particular house that I only lived in for a year. And I can actually, it would have been 1969 or 1970. No, 70, 71. that date. Okay. So now I understand how they got all this money. The person that asked me to do the study knew how to write a great request for a grant, but there did not need to be anything behind that written document. So now I'm going to get into the whole thing with the United States being Cancer. I wasn't aware of how deeply the astrological sign of a nation can be, having to do with their birthday, which in the United States would be July the 4th, which makes the United States was born under the sign of Cancer, which is a female sign, and it is the element of water, which is emotions. Okay, Cancers have a problem. They are too giving. They do not have balance in the giving and receiving. They can end up, I hate to say this because I am a Cancer, and I am really a Cancer. They can look like they're dumb as a rock. People that are savvy and sophisticated and scheming can run circles around a person who's astrologically a Cancer. That has happened to me, not just the bad guys, but the nice people. We are not balanced, Cancer. We give too much. And then later on in life, we kind of figure it out, but we still have a hard time thinking that these people could have actually been ill intended when they did what they did. So, United States being Cancer means that the laws are too giving, which is exactly the case. And as I've said before, all the countries have their different astrological and cultural differences. And I'm going to repeat a story. I had a housekeeper who told me, so proud of herself, how she was able to bring in several relatives, able to get them set up with all the services, able to get them a free apartment, Section 8. I don't remember what it is. I think it's free. Um, she also set them up for getting married to people that it would have been to their advantage, not necessarily American citizens, but even people from their own country, but that she understood that they were going to be able to support this person that she was being supportive of. She educated these people that were her family, each one of them, and there were several, on how to work with the system without doing something very illegal. And it worked. Everybody got set up. Now, this is one person. This is what's happened with a lot of. This is why the Cuba thing is going to be a problem. And I know I am Cuban and I am proud of being Cuban and I want to continue to be proud of being Cuban. But there's a bit of a problem if you bring in a lot of Cuban refugees. You already did them once. The government took them over and they are the Cuban cartel now, that in Europe they've called them for 20 years. They've called them the Cuban mafia, which are the ones, the old guard from Cuba that live in Miami. All my enemies, the ones who called me yesterday. And I think the call was from Grove Isle. Okay. So you have these people coming in from a communist country. At that point, they weren't communists. Right now, I'm not talking about Cubans. I love the fact that I'm getting pink on my left shoulder. See the way it shifts? There's nothing pink around me. So you have people coming in from communist countries. Well, I'm just going to take Cuba as an example. By the way, again, Cuba was considered the sexiest country in the world several years ago until they brought in cell phones service. And they're not the same anymore. They're just like everybody over here. Zombie. Sex drive, gone. Sexy, gone. Anyway, so you have people raised under systems to where you cannot be honest because you're scrambling for food or you're standing in line for how much the government is able to give you at that point, where there's an intense black market because nothing can be really happen openly. And then you bring them into an astrologically influenced country like the United States, that's Cancer, which gives, and does not set up boundaries, and is too nice and too sweet. That's Cancer. To the point of being dumb as a rock. That's Cancer, and that's Francis Fox. Okay, so you bring these people in, and then you wonder what's going on. Well, what's going on is they are who they are. They have their characteristics. You did not make provisions to where things would be tight and the proper people would be helped. And we are a country that's built on immigration. So it's like, well, you can't, this is how we started. You know what? Yes, it's how you started. But I love the Buddha for many reasons. But one of the reasons I love him, he said, I don't want my teachings documented because we don't know if they're going to be contextually valid in the future. Buddha was around 500 years before Christ. So these laws that we have had are not contextually valid for the people that come in that were raised and have an attitude having to do with how things were in their country. Now, I believe that the same way that you require that people pass a citizenship test and they have to study, and I have to tell you that they take that studying and that test very seriously, because I've worked with several people who are like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass this. Why don't you do the same thing with Social Security? Not Social Security. Actually, you should do that with that also, but benefits that people would require to do a certain number of hours to understand the benefits and to understand the consequences of misusing whatever it is that they manage to misuse. And I think that they should have to, if they're going to continue to get benefits, they should have to be programmed again with videos in their language so that they understand, so that they can make the mental adjustment, that there's an attempt to make them understand the system, and definitely getting a PR person or a psychologist that will review this and ensure that that person is being pointed in the right direction, but also told what happens if they go off in the wrong direction, misusing social services. And then we don't have to do this cleanup act that we have to do now. I think some PR, and I can see it already happening, but I think it's such a shame that you don't believe in magic or in applying it to a country, which all the black magicians do, the big ones that are into natural resources and petroleum and that, all that stuff. But there should be somebody that is doing, which, if you get me my tantric Buddhist monks, I can get it set up, that should be hearing the negative emotional reactions to the ICE process of finding and taking out people that are illegal, and that many of them are more than just illegal. They're actually thieves and liars and murderers, etc. That can be cleared up. It could be made softer, but you forget going to Catholic Church. If you have a Catholic Church that their ideal is the Vatican, and they're doing satanic ceremonies on Francis Fox, on Trump, on Nancy Pelosi, who's supposed to be their friend. And by the way, they're moving. They're not going to be down there in those dungeons anymore, because I've said it too many times. I think Trump put in a call and they said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. Or they go, oh, we're not doing that. Okay, so now we need to hide it more. Look at my left eye. See the way it looks like it's got a veil over it. Huh. Probably exactly what it is. Okay. So being a country that is astrologically Cancer would also explain those, what do you call them? The left movement, and where, oh my God, they have a family. Well, Cancer is all about family and home. So they would feel it more deeply than if this country were a different country. See, if we were astrologically Leo, which is being very proud and doing things properly, and we had the ice agents out there, then the people would have this energy flooding into them because they're in a country that is influenced by the Leo characteristics, and they would be saying, you know what, it's such a shame. They really should have done things properly. I mean, the fact that ice is picking them up makes sense. They should do things properly the next time. That would be a Leo response. But this is a country that's Cancer. Oh my God, there's 100 people and there's one who's limping. I know because that's me. Oh my God, he's limping. There's 99 other people that okay. Yeah, but he's limping. That's a Cancer. So then you got all these people that kind of lost their place in the world when you won Trump, and they're playing out to the max the whole Cancer thing. Oh my God, you should have more compassion. What's the matter with you? We're a country of immigrants. But that can be softened with purifications of congestions of rage, which is triggered by the ice movement. But the original generator of that level of hatred is not because of what the ice officers are doing. So it's the back thing that needs to be purified, and then they can be angry, but they will not be that angry because there was a constant purification going on. So Trump, please look into. You can bypass the Dalai Lama because it's nothing to do with him. I'll be more than glad to work with him. He is Tantric Buddhism, but he teaches Sutra Buddhism. We don't want the Sutra Buddhism. Sutra Buddhism is great for cancers. Oh my God, you got to control your anger. You have to be nice. No, you need the Tantric monks who know all about magic and have a much wider lens. And remember, the only group, and Buddhism is not a religion. It's a philosophy based on the mind, when the mind creates reality. So that's like really good. But lost my train of thought. I was too busy promoting Buddhism. Tantric monks, under my supervision, I don't want to control them. I want to make sure that they take care of Washington, D.C., Miami with the Mantrista portal that my handler opened up because of all the intense black magic he did. He was very focused on U.S. politicians. And also the excess, something that my group, we've taken care of this for several times, taking care of the excess emotions that end up distorting what it is that people end up doing ultimately. So Trump, can we trolley on about that? Now, on the 20th to the 26th, there's supposed to be an astrological configuration that's going to knock a lot of people out of the box. I think it's Pluto at 0 degrees. I'm not really sure, but you should look it up, everyone. If you're in charge of people, like you have a staff or you have a whole country under you, Trump, you need to look at that configuration and then use your intuition as to what it is you need to shore up so that configuration doesn't completely knock the whole structure down. It's like supposedly a before and after. You know what? I really don't like the way my left eye looks. Today on X, they were pointing out somebody who had black and blues on their left eye, and all of you guys think, oh, they're reptilian. Yeah, you don't know. First place, reptilians are very evolved. I'm going to say it now. Trump is Cancer. Trump is angelic consciousness. Venezuela's angelic consciousness. I think the United States is mixed. I'm dolphin consciousness. There's different types of consciousness, including reptilian. So what is the description of reptilian? A reptile is a naga, N-A-G-A. Those are the most evolved spirits on the planet. But here's the trick. They used to be seen physically as dinosaurs in feng shui. They're considered the dragons that are the owners of your property and they can protect you. Exactly. And every property has 4 dragons. that are, I'm checking. I just said 4, and I don't know if that it is accurate. Medicine wheel, the 4 corners. But the thing with the Nagas, which would be the thing with which all the reptilians come from, is that they will do whatever it is that they need to do for you to self-correct. So to look at somebody, oh my God, the reptilian, you know what? They're here to try to kick people enough to where they wake up and they do their self-correcting. They won't do it for us. But anyway, on X, I think it was this morning, some politician, some person with the bruises in the eye, and then I have a whole sheet someplace of all these important people that their left eye is bruised. Mine is limping, and it's like there's a veil over it. And it's very bad this morning, but I had a meeting with the Cuban cartel last night, and I agreed that I would not give any more. Chats in English. Well, here I am. So let me see if there's something else. I said so many times, even thinking, oh God, people are they're gonna not like this. Stop using Jesus Christ as a marketing tool. It's not the point. So now we have the whole Charlie Kirk thing, and they were using not him. The guy looks like he was a nice guy. Not him, but people within the organization were using Jesus Christ as a marketing tool and getting people to sign over. So in love with the organization. Why the hell do we care about an organization? Why is the emphasis not on Jesus Christ? And then people are going to get like a really uncomfortable, because Jesus Christ was a shaman. What shamans, by the way, what is it the shamans do? If they don't do these 2 things, they are not shamans. I don't really care about their white robes and their long hair that makes them look like Jesus Christ. You know how many men have come into Miami? Pretty good looking men. The hair, the white robes. Jesus, shamanism and Jesus Christ is about 2 things. Spirit, and if you're sick, they remove spirits. And then the elements. Jesus Christ started his ministry using the element of water to purify. Baptism, water to purify. If you can't stand the fact that maybe Jesus Christ was not white-skinned and that he dealt with spirits, why are you calling yourself a Christian? When you see somebody and they're really behaving poorly, they're influenced by spirits. But if that is never referred to, you didn't get to the bottom line, and the system continues. But my whole point right now is, when I read about the fact that Charlie Kirk's organization, some people within it were setting it up to where older people were donating their entire, what would have been inheritance for their family, into the organization, it just reinforced for me. Why do you need a large organization? Why? You don't. So why are we doing it? We shouldn't do it anymore. And if you're going to talk about Jesus Christ, you better be real clear on what it is that was important to him, which was removing spirits. He also came to the planet to teach people to go to the light, but he also came to teach the spirits that are like in between dimensions or that have died to go to the light. You don't believe any of that stuff? Fine. Then you know what? Stop saying that you're a Christian. It's a marketing tool. It's not working. And using Christians, using Christ to determine you're going to go to war because they're doing something to Christians in another country doesn't make any sense. Because believe you me, that if you ask Jesus Christ Jesus, should we go ahead and bomb that country because of what they're doing to the women? I don't think that Jesus would say that's a really good idea, because he would not have approved of using him as a marketing tool for excuses for power. So look at the Catholic Church. Oh, feed the poor. And they're like a really rich organization that doesn't share anything, that works with ETs, that does satanic rituals on world leaders. And there's no question about that. Okay. We found a fascinating situation with Venezuela. Everybody has patterns. You might find yourself saying throughout your life several times, why does this always happen to me? Everybody else went and I'm the only one that it happened to, and this has happened before. That's a karmic pattern. When your mind gets a big trauma, it gets like a wrinkle, like a scar. It's called a vasana. And then that part of your mind that creates reality is all truncated and distorted. And the reality associated with that comes from a distorted mind configuration. So what you get is distortion. So in one of my chats, I said, there's an issue here, and people are not respecting Venezuelans. And I said, I kind of understand that, because Venezuelans are mainly angelic. Got the most powerful country in the world having to do with natural resources, which is going to be the big thing with the aliens. And then you have angelic people running it, which is not, I was going to say it's not the best. No, it's kind of like, okay. And then I was discussing the lack of respect for the people that were elected to run Venezuela. The dictator, he's gone. The people that were elected, and the thought that they was going to have to put somebody else there because this is going to be too much for them. So I said, you know what? In 1854, this pattern of a lack of respect for Venezuelans having to do with being able to exercise their power, that's when it started. There was a vasana, an injury to the collective mind of the country of Venezuela because of some trauma in I believe it was 1854. So I said to the people in my chat, please somebody look it up and let's figure this out. Do you know what happened in 1854? It's exactly the thing that's happening now. It's repeating now, except it's not going to be repeat because we're clearing the pattern. It was 1854. If it wasn't, forgive me, but the slaves were freed in Venezuela. Okay. Venezuela is now free from the dictator. The slaves were free from their owners. But it was determined that the slaves were not savvy enough. So they had to stay with their owners. That was so damaging to the psyche in Venezuela that it created a scar, like a knifing of the mind that creates reality. And so Venezuela has a pattern of not being respected and people thinking that they're not going to be able to run their own affairs. What they did to the slaves in 1854. You're free, but you got to stay with the owner. What kind of freedom is that? Well, let's make sure that the decisions we're making today don't resonate with that, but actually, who determines that are the Venezuelans. They're the ones with the defect in their mind strings. But if you purify what happened in 1854, then all of a sudden there is going to be respect for Venezuelans being able to manage their own country, which is what they're supposed to do. Okay? Not like freeing the slaves and then saying, you're free, but you got to stay with the owner. So we're clearing that. And there's another story having to do with happened when I was clearing that, but I'm not going to go into that because I've talked too long already. So the United States map looks good. This is important because going into this end of January configuration, the United States needs to be stable. But there is a distortion, and it's coming in from the air quadrant, which means galactic beings are pushing us there. And then you got those rebellion guys that have moved their rebellion to that point in the map, which I don't know what point that is. So that is it. So I don't know if I'm going to get another phone call or another whatever from the Cuban cartel that is still operational in Miami, no question, but they think that they're going to be saved by whoever it is that's in charge of them. They've been told just to kind of lay low and that whatever problems, the government is going to take them out of that problem because the Cuban cartel is controlled by the US government, the weaponized part of the US government. Okay? These are not, they're not controlled by the Cubans in Cuba. I'm going to do a map of the Caribbean, but I'm going to tell you something. Cuba has been kicked around. The island of has been kicked around a lot. And I'm going to say to you that Fidel Castro used to say that he did not want to die until the American public was made aware of what their government was doing. And I leave you with that thought. I just realized Cuba has a vasana, a pattern. When the Spaniards came to Cuba, they killed all the indigenous people. That's it. Just get rid of them. And I think Cuba has been treated like that. Like they're not important. The island is, it's strategically, but the Cubans are not important. I'm half Cuban, proud of being Cuban. I could say I'm American. I could say I'm German. I don't say that. I'm Cuban. My kids are Cuban. My grandkids are Cuban. And they weren't even born in Cuba. I wasn't either. Bye. Thank you for joining me.